Good afternoon. Welcome back to Dare to Adventure. Today I am here with the amazing Chloé Lauer with the Transformational Travel Program. Welcome, Chloé. How are you today?
I'm great, Rachel. Thanks so much for having me.
You are so welcome. I'm excited to hear from you today. So share with the listeners a little bit about what you're up to, what you're doing, what you've been doing, what you have planned to do, and just a little bit about your business.
Sure, I'm happy to share. So I created the world's first course devoted to transformational travel. And by that, I mean travel where the inner journey of self-realization and discovery is valued as much or more as the outer journey of where we go and our, destinations and all the photos and that kind of thing. So for me, I've just found travel to be such a pathway to confidence and courage and delight in life wherever I am. And I've learned to have a life of adventure that I can bring with me, whether I'm at home or abroad. I'm continually living an adventurous life, and people admire that and they want more of that. And I know what that's like because I used to be the person sitting on the couch looking at Facebook and envying everyone else's travels back in 2008. I felt discouraged. I was recovering from a chronic illness, and I just wanted to meet that special person. And I thought, well, after that, then I'll go on all the adventures of my dreams. And eventually I decided I wasn't going to wait around any longer. And so when I turned 33, I decided to start checking off those dream boxes and see where it would take me. And the first one was going on a hot air balloon ride. So 7 years ago, I took my first hot air balloon ride. I paid for my ticket and for my friend's ticket because I wasn't going to let, finances or anything get in the way. And then that's just been the start of, an amazing 7 years in which I've traveled to a total of 62 countries and left my corporate job and then started this new business.
Wow. I love it. It's so amazing. Like, one of the things that I've heard over and over again throughout doing these interviews and podcasts is how people become more confident through traveling. So expound on that a little bit for you. Like, go back to like your first trip, abroad. Maybe were you alone, and kind of guide us through what gave you that confidence to continue to do what you were doing.
Right. Yes. So my first trip was actually with a group. I was 18 years old and I was studying German, a freshman in college. I mean, my first trip like outside of North America. And I, came to the semester and they said, oh, this January, we're all going to Germany for a month. And I was like, sounds amazing. Sign me up. So I was really grateful to have like the context of language study for that first adventure in Europe. And then also the support of a professor who organized and orchestrated everything, and, host families who got me closer to the culture, and then friends along the way who were like these built-in support systems. So that like planted the seed for everything else that continued to grow. So in college, I did travel throughout Europe. I actually lived in Germany for a semester and traveled a lot, and then went to Japan for another January term because I was also studying Japanese. I just had a love for languages and cultures from an early age. And then, it was like after grad school and a little bit of travel then, and in my late 20s, when I hit this sort of like lull in terms of travel, and I was really focused on career and paying off my student loans and then optimizing my health and well-being. And so after that point, I was lacking in confidence, because I'd lost that sort of like rhythm, and it had been a couple of years since I'd taken a solo adventure. And so what helped me to get back in was actually another curated trip where I went to Bali with a yoga group for 2 weeks. And so I'm definitely a firm believer that there's no wrong way to travel. And so what's right for us at a certain point in our lives may not be right for us at another point. So for me in 2011, just getting back into travel, just signing up for something where I just paid the money and they decided everything else and I showed up, that was the right avenue. But then in 2013, when I really embarked on my solo trip around the world and took a year off from work, what gave me the confidence was speaking with other travelers. I remember crying with a friend, and she was actually also like a massage therapist. So she was giving me a massage and I was like, what if I die? And so, you really have to face your deepest fears. And I think in humanity, our deepest fear is of death, even though it's the one thing that we all know is inevitable, yet we fear it the most. So, just coming face to face with that fear and admitting that I would be okay with it. Like, even if it came to dying, I would be okay because at least I was living my dreams and not putting them off. And then also, talking with a friend who'd been on her own trip around the world 2 years earlier, and she had come back fine and vibrant and confident. I was like, okay, so if Linda can do it and I'm willing, for whatever happens to happen, I can do it too. So, and then, when the travel actually started, it was so much more easy than I imagined and also energizing. So like, as I went from one place, it was like, okay, I landed in Hong Kong and that went well. Okay, now I'm in Bangkok and that went well. It's like just the momentum of like, after a couple places under your belt, you build that resiliency and resourcefulness where you start to know how to handle things if they do go wrong. And yeah, so the confidence, I felt like it built up along the way.
I can relate to that as well through traveling, that like each place you might be like nervous, like I don't know the language, I don't know and then you like realize, oh, it's fine. Like I made it. Okay, I can make it in the next one too. And then you just keep going. And then you're like, oh, I can do anything.
Exactly. Especially those remote places where they felt like the most distant. Mm-hmm. Like for me, one of them was India. It just felt like this opaque subcontinent on a map with like no dimension, even though I had a lot of Indian friends and I was like really curious about the culture. And then once I was there and it was like in 3 dimensions and people had said so many scary things about traveling alone as a woman in India. And then I was fine and I met amazing people. Yeah. Like I feel like the more risk I'm willing to take, then the more the confidence builds also.
Yeah. So how does that apply to your daily life now? Like, because in terms of transformation, that's really powerful, right? What you just said. So have you found that that's applied to all aspects of your life now?
Yes. And yeah, even in career, I mean, I was offered to become a partner at an architecture company back in San Francisco. And instead of following that path, which would be like predictable and more safe financially and in other ways, I did like the 180 and I actually left the job and left the career and then embarked on a 10,000-mile road trip around the country because after so much like abroad travel, I was like, our country's amazing. I want to see it more and go to all the national parks. And so it was like during that time that I created the Transformational Travel Program, this like comprehensive online course to support other people in designing their own dream trips. And that is really risky. I mean, being an entrepreneur is really scary, and trusting myself to be the source of my own income and my own financial well-being. And, being willing to like see my savings account go down, as I fund, my life and my entrepreneurial endeavors. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. And I've had a lot of, down moments and tears, like besides, being in an intimate relationship and having children. I don't have children, but I've heard this is the case. I think being an entrepreneur is like, and travel, of course, like being an entrepreneur is also one of the fastest ways to challenge yourself and to experience personal growth. So the risk taking definitely has continued.
That's so powerful. I totally agree with that. I feel like that it's like a mindset that you just have. You're like, I'm going to make this work no matter what. I'm kind of going to go against the system a little bit. So if there's somebody out there right now who's listening and they're like, oh my goodness, your story is so resonating with me. I'm stuck at a dead end job. Maybe I don't enjoy, like, what would your advice be to them?
My advice would be to start a business on the side. I had like 2 businesses before I quit my job. And the first one was as a health coach. It was kind of like whatever I was learning in my life, I wanted to share it with others. And so like, as I was healing myself, I started a health coaching practice specializing in digestive illnesses because I have Crohn's disease. And so I did that for 4 or 5 years, and I got practice, writing sales copy and writing blog posts and having clients and being a coach and delivering, results to people. And then my second business was called Space Alchemy because I really love interior design and small spaces. Living in San Francisco, I mostly had studio apartments and maybe small 1-bedrooms. So I became an expert in just making the most out of what could be considered cramped quarters and having it be beautiful. And so I helped other people declutter and organize. And so like doing those things in addition to my full-time job, it just lit me up. It was like something that I was really passionate about and that I got experience delivering solutions to people and offering services. And I think having that experience gave me more confidence when I did finally leave my job. And I don't want to paint too rosy of a picture also for people, because I want to be really transparent and honest that I'm actually in the process of searching for another full-time job right now. So in February of 2018 is when I left. And now it's been almost like basically 1.5 years. And my business is doing well. Like I just had a sale this morning, and it's still in its infancy. And so I really want to allow it to be an infant business and not put too much pressure on it. And so for that reason, I am seeking another opportunity full time. And I think I do actually thrive in a more structured environment with colleagues and teams and leading groups of people. So yeah, I'm still finding my way. Basically, my message to people is you can't mess up your life. So even if the thing that you're really excited about now doesn't like turn out the way you expected, it's still really valuable. And so I'm really curious to see right now, like where this entrepreneurial experience is actually going to synergistically combine with everything else that I've been up to and bring me to a position where I can offer my full self at a company and where they really appreciate all of me, including the fact that I've been a bit non-traditional.
Yeah, I love that. I think that I've done that a couple of times over the years too, where I've taken a part-time job here and there to be able to continue to fund and stay afloat in my entrepreneurial business. And I think that that's totally okay, because for me, it's like I put one foot in front of the other continuously. Like that's my promise to myself, is to put one foot in front of the other, face my fears, take risks, try things, even if they're a little bit scary. And so what I find is some things aren't meant to be forever. And I learn a really valuable lesson, and it moves me into the next thing. And the previous thing I did, I learned so much from it, I could carry it to the next thing. And so I've shifted gears several times, but some people look at it like, why have you started so many businesses? And it's more like I have an entrepreneurial mind, and I've been trying to find the thing that lights up my soul the most. And so it's more of like an organic process. But sometimes when you're switching gears so often, like I seem to have done, you need a consistent source of income at times, or, so
Exactly.
I don't think there's anything wrong at all with, being an entrepreneur and be like, oh, I got to get a job for a few minutes or for a year or for whatever. So thank you though for sharing that, because I think that I've experienced this actually with clients where they felt like maybe they were a failure because they had to go and get a job. And I've actually experienced that myself, where I'm like, oh, did I fail? Because I've got to go get a job. And no, I don't think so at all. I think it's just part of the evolution, because more than likely you'll learn something that you need for your next, for your travel business or whatever the case.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm really glad that we can be transparent about this, because it's really not like the grass is greener on the other side either. And it's also not always like a linear progression. It's like life is very sort of cyclical, and also sometimes just topsy-turvy. And it's not until we can look back and kind of understand, sometimes with a little perspective, how all those pieces are fitting together.
Yeah. So how has traveling and all of this that you've done, how has it shifted your perspective and how has it made you a better person?
Well, it definitely gives me a lot more tolerance for ambiguity and chaos and for being in the unknown. And also trust in humans, really, and that I can rely on strangers to take care of me in times of need. I just wrote this essay for a compilation book, and I shared two stories where men, in fact, took care of me when I was sick in two different places. One was in Greece and one time in Argentina. And I just wanted to add this story to the whole world right now, where with like the Me Too movement, there's a lot of skepticism about men and their trustworthiness and their honor when it relates to women, especially vulnerable women. And I wanted the world to know that there are good people out there and there are good men out there. And I've just had some remarkable experiences where basically I call them my angels. Like my angels came to my aid in the form of these humans exactly when I needed them. And so that's just been super touching to my heart. It also makes me more aware of travelers when I'm at home. And so in San Francisco, when I lived there for 14 years, I was always giving directions to tourists because I'm just like, I've been in their shoes. I know what it's like to feel lost or confused or just to want like a local recommendation for something. Maybe they're doing fine, but I can just add a little extra spice to their day and provide them with something and with a human connection. And so, yeah, it gives me this like broader perspective on the world, definitely broken down barriers and stereotypes, and then makes me more open to people.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that that's so valuable because I've experienced some of similar things. Definitely have more patience in the midst of chaos through
Mm-hmm.
traveling. And I have met some really beautiful, beautiful souls that have really been there too during travel times and then makes me want to return the favor home. So I can totally relate to that. I think that that's something that we don't hear enough of. So I love, love, love that you absolutely shared that. So tell us how we can follow you, maybe what you have upcoming that we could check out and maybe get involved in with your travel business. And where they can find you, your website, your social media, whatever you want to share.
Okay, thanks, Rachel, for the opportunity. Again, I'm really honored to be on your podcast and excited to hear the other interviews. So my website is Chloé Lauer, my name, CHLOELAUER.com. And so there you can find everything. It links to Instagram, which if you're solely interested in Instagram, it's _ Chloé Lauer _. And then I have a free Facebook group called let's see, solo travel and adventures for women. It's specifically for women, even though I have clients in my course who are also men. But I did this mainly to help women get over the predominant cultural fears around safety and loneliness. Yeah, so it's called Solo Travel and Adventures for Women, and then in parentheses, Transform and Grow. And that's a free group where I offer insight and inspiration on a daily basis.
And I'm in that group and I love it. So
Oh, good.
I think everybody should join it for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. And then on a monthly basis, I host something called virtual tea parties. And so at the beginning of the year for 2019, I selected 12 topics for like my editorial calendar, topics that I think are really rich and common to everybody who's on this inner journey of growth and likes to do it through travel and adventure. And so like the first one was, of course, adventure. And then we looked at belonging and home, because often when we travel, we get so many insights about home by being away. We looked at silence and how valuable that is in our own inner journey. And then we looked at magic in May. And then now June, the topic is happiness. And so next Sunday, it's always on the last Sunday of the month from 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. and it's an hour-long call, and I teach for about 15 minutes. So we're going to look at the 3 primary blocks that keep us from experiencing happiness while we travel. And so that'll be the first part of the call. And then we engage in a conversation and we listen and share. So you get to hear stories from other like-minded travelers. And then at the end, I just offer whatever's next. So we do have a cohort starting for my course again. And in the course, you design and book your dream travel adventure, and you do the one that's right for you. Because just like in health and wellness, I believe in bio-individuality, meaning that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach for like what diet works for each of us. I believe the same thing in travel, that each of us is the expert in our travel and in our life. And so like what's perfect for Rachel right now, may be very different from the next trip for me. And over the course of our lives, what we need also changes. And so learning how to be our own like travel agent and understand ourselves as our own client those are really important skills that also can be applied to all other areas of life. Mm-hmm. So it's a very comprehensive course, and I'm always offering it. We do a couple of cohorts every year, and have a couple more seats left in this next one.
That's amazing. I just want to say you have given so much value in this short amount of time. And I'm so grateful for you being willing to come on and share so much, because what you've just given is gold. Like it really inspires me to help people see more of what transformation can happen when you follow your intuition. And I agree with the whole health thing. And we've talked about this very briefly offline, about healing of the body holistically, and definitely what's good for one person is not for the other. And so I like that perspective on travel too. I think that's so valuable. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rachel. I can't wait to get to know you more, and hopefully someday, maybe meet in real life.
Somewhere amazing around the world.
Yes.
That would be wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I will see you soon. And to all the listeners, thanks so much for listening. Go and follow her on social media to find out all of the amazing things that you're doing. And have a great rest of the day. And we'll see you guys soon. Thanks, Chloe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.